can do is manipulate emails. And what I mean by that is by dragging and dropping out of Thunderbird, you can do all sorts of things. Now let's say that you drag and drop this out, and we're just sort of playing with the emails. They've been dragged and dropped out, and they're incorrectly named and stuff like that. Now what I mean by incorrectly named is I believe an email should have a standard format, and that format should be the date and time in reverse order, the time the email received, the email recipient name and what the name is, and the title of the email with the extension email. Now if you drag and drop standard out of an email client, you won't get this date and time. You'll get some other format, and it'll generally be consistent and not have all that critical information on the email. It won't sort well, it's difficult to rename, it's time consuming. So what Ammenster does is it has a number of buttons in this area down here, and if you press on the offer button and then highlight it, it'll tell you what it does. Left mouse button drops names the email to time, year and date and time from the full email title. The right mouse button changes that to a to full email. The two now understand what I mean. The from is when you receive an email. The to is when you the email that it is sent to. So it's a right mouse drag drop. So for example, if I want to rename this file, I drag and drop it to standard format, and that'll go to standard email, and you'll see that it just got renamed to standard email. And then if I drag and drop that one to standard, so it does not change the position of the folder. If you take an email, and we'll hack it again just to show you what I mean. If you take an email and you drag and drop to that email to desktop, that's what that means, and it also renames it to the standard format. So you'll see it takes it out of the folder, puts it on the desktop. Now typically this is used if you've got an unsorted folder and you want to sort emails out. So you'll notice it's renamed it to the standard format. Now if you want to open the search to see if there are any emails, and we'll just do it again. Now if we click the third one, remember this is a left mouse drop, you can see email to desktop, search for the folder. So we press it and you'll see that it's opened and looking for emails of the same format. You'll also notice there is a folder in the recycle bin. I'll just delete that because I don't want it to show up in our searches. Now one of the things that is really, really cool is the next button, which when we, I'll just drop that back on in our folder. If we drop it to that, you'll see it says email, search for folder, move. Now that also does it doesn't drop it on the desktop, but it temporarily puts it to the desktop while it's looking for the folder to automatically move. Now in this case, if it fails, you'll see it should refresh the desktop. We've lost the email. That's an interesting bug. It says email already exists at the destination, so it's been deleted. So there's already a folder somewhere with that destination. So let's just go do a search. That's why, so this bit here told me that it already exists. So we're just going to open the search and see if we've got a folder there before we start. Now there is no folder. I'll be curious to see so I'm going to stuff that up and then I'm going to make a copy of it because I want to see if it's trying to hunt down the recycle bin. So we'll do that again, drop. It says the email already existed. So what we need to do is we need to go into search everything, tools, options, exclusions, and we need to exclude system files and those files and apply. And notice that we're rescanning because we don't want our folders being found. So now we go back. So these are little minor things about adjustments in the search. So if we go back and do a search, you'll see there is no folder now. So it won't come up with the error found or the problem found the folder. So if we delete those again, make a few copies, just for fun we're just going to make some copies so we can play with it, put them back in the folder. Now if we try and save that file, in other words we don't know if the folder exists, but we go to search for it, you notice that it instantly pops up and says, hey, we couldn't find the folder, but we've moved it to the desktop ready for you to process. Now one of the other things that it does is it takes that name that we've just created and it puts it in here ready for you to process. Now you have two buttons of options. The first button is you can just create a left mouse button click, which is, if I just do that again, hang on, which creates a folder based on the contents of the text box, usually done after a drag drop event. So you'll see there is the thing. So if you were to press that right now, you'll notice it creates a folder over here on the desktop. So you could drag and drop that in there. However, now that's okay if you are happy with that email as just being an email. But to be useful, I've decided that one technique that you can do is you can use this folder use button and you can left mouse drag and drop. I'll just put it up again. Sorry, let's put it up again. You can prefix the folder with the email domain. The right mouse button with the root removes the subdomain and simplifies the email. So for example, if you look at this email, you'll see that its domain name is that. So what we'll do is we will drag and drop that folder onto that, and you'll see that it puts that in the front instead of the IZB. Now where that's useful for, if you've got a dealings folder, and I have a dealings folder, you can sort all your dealings with a company in that name. So the folder can look like that. The alternative is that you can create a folder like this and then create by pressing this button, the email button, you can prefix a folder with the email address, drag and drop the email to that, and then put it in that folder. Then you've got this nice folder where you've got Unity Soul Match. I mean, wherever that email is, it's a spam folder. But you create this folder where the email is in. And you can then create an issue where you deal with that folder and from that domain. So, for example, if you take full charm, which we know is the same email, and you now drop it to the move folder, now because you don't want to do anything with that email, you just want to store it, you drag it to that folder where it's email find folder plus move it. That's what that's saying. So we left mouse click it, release it, and you'll see it says email already existed, source file deleted. Now it does a comparison using it does a comparison of the two emails to make sure that the email is correct, that it is an identical email. And quite often we find with drag and dropping. Now I am going to change it so that when we get a successful drag, drop and move, that button goes green. Having the feedback up here is a bit useless because you can't really see it. So it'll go green for a couple of seconds and then fade back to grey. If the email fails and is copied to the desktop, I'll probably pick yellow, colour yellow if it does that, and it go red if the operation totally failed, like nothing happened. You'll handle multiple drops, but I think yeah, it'll handle multiple drops, and it'll be quite good. I'll work with it and we'll see how we go in practice. So for example, if I do this again, you'll see that it's copied it and it says the email already exists, so it's done a rename, and you'll notice that the email has automatically been moved to there. Now if I move that out and put it back in here, so we've got the folder inside there, there's the file renamed. It will take that email, I'll just delete, it'll take that email and automatically put it in that folder. So if we now look in that folder, so it can be anywhere in the system, it'll automatically put it there. Now remember, this is for files that you do not have to work with. If you think you have to work with the file, in other words, you want to work in the same folder, I recommend that instead of using the move command that automatically moves it, you use the search command. You search for it, it opens the folders so you can see where you've got to go. Then you open the folder and you'll see that it's up here, and that you would then go through and use the Amenstor process. You would then work on the email. So you might, for example, decide that that's got an issue in it, and in which case, if it has an issue, then you create a ref, and you would ref this. You see, so you would insert ref this, and now the email is no longer standard name, but a process. Now, what you would do then is you would take your standard process, and I'll cover this later, but you would use that reference to write your list of to-dos and tasks, and then you would use that reference to do your diary dates.